done by Thad Berry related to specific issues involving water runoff and other items. Thad gave way to Geo here, and the applicant decided, because of what he thought was a commonality of interest, which is to see these 8 new single-family homes built, to acquiesce, essentially, and do exactly what your engineer, Jim Reardon, had suggested. So Geo then did a plan that we believe, and then ultimately Jim Reardon concurred, satisfied any and all of the concerns that he had. We then were confronted with the fact that there were certain members who resigned, certain members who had never appeared, and that certainly slowed the process with respect to having a quorum. And we're back with a quorum, but not a quorum of members who have heard this case, from what I can observe. And that gave rise to, I guess, a letter that was given today at 2 o'clock, addressed to Mary Lester, with respect to the ability of the new members appointed subsequent to February the 8th of 2022 to participate. I note for the record, and the record does reflect, that at the last meeting, the new members participated and voted on the issuance of a certificate of compliance, which my client questioned me on, and I questioned how it was they could vote on that and not then come and vote. But you chose not to vote at the last meeting. There was a discussion, I believe, about whether another engineering report was required. And I think the last few meetings, I'm sort of like a voice crying in the wilderness saying, just close the hearing and vote. Vote it up or down, but vote it. This letter would indicate that it's the opinion of the law department, at least, that that may not be possible. And so I have great respect for Attorney Markopoulos and the members of the law department, one of which is my brother. And in fact, I've read the cases that were cited. And so I don't know what action the commission is going to take tonight, but I do want, if possible, to get the opportunity, at least since I've read the cases and I brought them with me, I wanted to read from one, if it's necessary, depending on what the commission chooses to do or not do, in which, again, it's not what I say, it's what the judge in the case said, and I would read it verbatim or I'd give you the copy. But I don't know that the letter I was given at 2 o'clock addresses what the judge who decided. There's only one decided case. It's not an appellate law case, so it doesn't have like precedent value. It's a Superior Court case, but there's only one case in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that dealt with the Conservation Commission's ability to vote when there were members who had been absent, not whether they had not been appointed, but whether they had missed the meeting or hadn't heard all of the testimony submitted at a public hearing. And that case is one of the cases that the law department cited, and I took the time to get it and read it. But at this point, we believe, as we've said the last maybe 3 meetings, that we've done everything that was required and more. The cost of this has been tremendous because construction costs and supply issues have raised the cost of construction. That's a risk a builder takes and a developer takes. But part of it also is the choice between doing the plan that Mr. Berry had and the plan that Mr. Federo has is a couple of $100,000 more to do the plan that we think your engineer recommended and we acquiesced to. And so we sort of feel that no good deed can go unpunished, and no matter what we do, apparently we're never going to reach the finish line. And so I repeat, as I have at other meetings, that I think that it's been studied and beaten to death, that there could be legitimate differences of opinion, and that's the prerogative of the commission to exercise its judgment, not ours, and I can understand that they may or they may not agree. But to hold somebody in limbo for over 2 years, and I acknowledge that there were other factors, certainly some on the part of the country in general because of the impact of COVID, some because we changed an engineer, but we did that to satisfy the engineer we paid for that you required us to get to study our first engineer's report. And then we acquiesced to what he did. So the way we sort of see it is we've had Thadberry, Geo, Jim Reardon, and then there was a suggestion, I think at the last meeting, if I can't call it a hearing, at the last meeting, that perhaps a fourth engineer, well, maybe a fifth engineer, or maybe we'll never get any engineer to agree. I don't often agree with my wife, so I'm not hopeful that I can get 5 engineers or 4 engineers to agree. All I want to do is bring finality to the process. I think it's, and members here agreed with me. Mr. Toomey was one of them. And I also think that I agreed with Mr. Toomey, and I thought Geo did file, and so Mr. Toomey and I might have a legitimate difference, and we've had differences in this case before, but they're not personal. They're really related to the issues at hand. And I respect that, and I think that we bear some responsibility for the delay. But at this point, we'd like to know what more can we do than we've already done, and that we've already provided. And if you think it's not enough, then you just vote it down, and we'll go to the next stop. But we don't know what more we can do, given the employment of 3 engineers, given 2 years in time, and giving the effort that we've made, we believe, to satisfy every legitimate inquiry that members have had. So I said, I think in December, I said it in January, I said it in February, and I say it in March. Close the public hearing and take a vote. If there are new members here, they participated in the February 15th meeting. We now made a submission, which I think is like 269 pages of the engineering reports, and I don't know what else we could be required to do than what we have already done. And so with that, I would hope that the commission would take some action. At least we got 4 members, which I think is a quorum. It is a quorum. All right. But we got a divided house. It looks like we have 2 new members and 2 older members, or previous members. I don't want to call them older necessarily, but we have to play by your rules. And so we think we have, but if there's some difference of opinion, there's some other step that we need to take, whatever we could do to bring this to a close, to finality and to a decision, we're willing to do.
Thank you. So just to clarify things, after the February meeting, there was some confusion on whether or not the new members could vote on the project. So the commission did seek that the city solicitor's office for an opinion on that, and that letter is the result of the commission's request.
I've read the letter. I know what it says, but I've also read the cases that were cited. So depending on what the commission chooses to do, as I said, the only thing I could add is I could read to you from what the actual court decision was.
Do any of the members have?
Attorney Lamanna still here?
Attorney Lamanna is coming to the podium. Hi. Yes.
Water pump.
Sorry. Welcome. Go ahead, Attorney Lamanna. Thank you.
Thank you. The Law Department City Solicitor George Markopoulos issued an opinion to the Conservation Commission today based on the rule of the Mullen Rule. It's well settled that you cannot miss more than one meeting and participate in a vote. And even in that case, if you miss one meeting and you watch and you hear the evidence and read the evidence, the statute has to be accepted. That's Chapter 3923D. The city did not accept that. So even the one missed meeting that the statute permits in response to the Mullen meeting doesn't provide any protection or any ability for the Conservation Commission to act. I will recognize, as my brother indicated, it was a Superior Court decision, but it's the only decision on point, and it deals directly with a ruling that the conservation commissions are adjudicatory in nature and thus have to follow the Mullen rule, and the members must be present at all meetings to participate. Mullen ultimate holding was it was remanded back to the board to follow the Mullen rule, and one of the options that the Superior Court judge had was to refile, and that would be the recommendation of the Law Department, that the applicant refile and as soon as possible, recognizing there's been almost more than a 2-year delay. There's been a great body of evidence that has been accumulated between the different engineer reports, so it seems to the Law Department there would not be a need to duplicate those efforts. Those efforts could be brought forth and introduced as evidence to this newly constituted board with a quorum that can act. As you can see, your hands are somewhat tied. Because you can't participate, you can't vote yes to approve, and because that you didn't hear the evidence and cannot participate, you cannot vote no to deny. So we're really at a standstill in how to resolve this, and reading the case law and the prodigy of the Mullen case, particularly as it relates to the Conservation Commission, the most expeditious way to resolve this matter is a refiling with an understanding that any evidence that was submitted to the prior board could be resubmitted at the first regularly scheduled meeting after the refiling. So we're not starting at square one from January of 2020. We'd be starting 2022, presumably March, April, and probably April of 2022, with a great deal of evidence that you folks will have the opportunity to consider, evaluate, question the evidence from the petitioner, question any opposition that may come forward. But that is the recommendation of the Law Department, that refiling is the only way to comply with the Mullen Law, and the failure to insist on the refiling and a vote to approve this board's decision is susceptible to be overturned. If you voted to no vote, again, someone in favor of this petition would be able to say that it was not a proper vote under Mullen. That's the recommendation of the City Solicitor and the Law Department.
Thank you,
Take
Attorney.
questions? Can you take questions?
Certainly.
Will the new members ever be allowed to vote on this project?
If the applicant refiles as soon as tonight or tomorrow, that the new members, hearing all the evidence on the newly filed petition, absolutely would be proper for them to
Okay.
to
Well,
make a ruling. That is not before you, because you missed 22 meetings up till now, some of which were no quorum, but you would be able to participate, long story short.
I don't want to answer for them, but I don't think they're going to refile. Second question. Can the new members who have gone through these engineering documents and the plot plans and the plan itself, can they discuss their findings and recommendations tonight and just not vote?
They would not, with the recommendation of the Law Department, would not be to consider the prior filing, because your hands are tied in the sense that you cannot consider it. You weren't here for the hearing. You didn't hear any live testimony. You didn't hear any live opposition. So it would certainly be the recommendation. It would be an end around of the Mullen rule. So it's very important for a clean start, a new filing, and with the understanding, we all come from a background that may have been familiar with a petition before a filing for whatever reason, that you will come into this from day one on the refiling with a very good understanding of the petition, because of the hard work that you've put forward since February 8th being appointed, trying to catch up to speed. It's just this court case doesn't allow you, despite all your efforts, to familiarize yourself with the petition, the pros and the cons, the law, the engineering reports, the Mullen case, and the follow-up court decisions really tied your hands. So you will be able to, everything you've done and all the research you've done, you'll be able to come into this at the first public hearing after the refiling, and you'll be able to rely on that wealth of knowledge.
Okay. I do want to say that it's extremely frustrating to me to have spent 30 to 40 personal hours going through these documents and having my hands tied at this meeting tonight. Extremely frustrating. I am prepared to speak to every engineering sheet, to the plan itself. I said in the first meeting last month, I would like to try to see this happen, if things are right. I have an idea of how it's going to be right. I asked for a Lynn Water and Sewer Commission drain engineer to be here tonight, because I want to get this moving. I promised that at the last meeting. It's extremely frustrating to be shut down completely at the moment.
Mr. Guthrie, I don't want to speak for the engineers, but I'm not expecting what's before you and what you spent your time on to be greatly different in the future. I think your vote will be put up, but I think you'll be reviewing and voting on a very similar.
If they refile. So that's the million-dollar question. Is the applicant going to refile?
Again, I don't have the answer to that, but I suspect.
Or are they going to rely on the old-timers getting a quorum to vote yea or nay on this plan? I say the old-timers.
We can't. You can't get it.
Way.
Stuck at 3.
Oh, so they might not have a choice but to refile.
That's
Right,
the issue.
that's what
That's
I'm-
not,
that's-
Okay, so that's
I'm
good to
sorry, I didn't
understand.
explain that
Very good to understand. Because I think just looking at the current plan, and I'm looking at Engineer Federa, looking at the current plan, I can see this to be the plan. And to Mike Toomey's point, it's not going to change much in the future. There's nothing more you can do with that plot, those two plots. It's almost a perfect plan. Actually, I wanted to not congratulate, but to compliment how they fit 8 new houses into those 2 plots. And I don't want to get too much into sharing my opinion, and doing a very good job addressing the Wetland Protection Act and the Massachusetts Stormwater Runoff requirements. So I hope they refile, and I hope all the work I've done can come to fruition to try to support this.
if I could add, this is my first opportunity to speak to some of you. The law department is not taking a position for or against this position.
Understand?
So I've never reviewed the plans. I'm just giving you what
I'm just
can be
venting
voted,
my
what can't be voted.
frustration. I'm not blaming the law department, actually not blaming anyone. I'm just venting my frustration that the hard work to try to get this plan moving forward is at a standstill. And hey, maybe it'll be a few more months, I have no idea, but I'll tell you what, I'll be ready. I'll be ready. I'm ready tonight, and I'll be ready months from now.
Are we going to make comments, or should we just?
I don't believe there's really any comments that to be needed. The law department is recommending
Right.
that no vote, a refiling, and hopefully as expeditiously as possible. This gets back before the 4 members that have heard every hearing and all bits of evidence on the new refiling.
So would a motion to table be in order?
I have to go to the zoning board of appeals, but I.
Thank you, Attorney
I
Lamanna.
find that the law department is your attorney.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is from the case, first of all, when Jim told me about the Mullen Rule, I thought it was like a mulligan in golf. I'd never heard of the Mullen Rule. The Mullen Rule is involving a planning board, and the planning board had voted approval, and there were some members that missed. This judge rightly says, he's a Superior Court judge, but he did an excellent job. In the Jeffries case, which is cited in the letter that the law department submitted to you. But I'm going to read to you, and I'll be glad to leave you the copy of the case, because this judge, he was confronted with a question that no other judge had ever been faced with in Massachusetts. And he says right at the beginning, there is no other case in Massachusetts involving a conservation commission where this is the issue. So he starts off, and this is on page 2 as a decision. He says, the Mullen Rule has not previously been applied to a conservation commission by a reported decision of a Massachusetts appellate court. What he's meaning is there's no higher court standard or precedent. The rule imposes extra public service burdens on volunteer members of local boards. The 4 hearings in this case amounted to a relatively protracted proceeding for the members. There's no suggestion of bad faith or intentional disregard of the law by the commission or any of its members. For these reasons, the order annulling the commission's decision is without prejudice to the commission, rehearing the matter, or taking such further action as it deems appropriate, either on, and this, you can substitute Lanzillo, but in this one it's either on Mr. Solomonato's original application or on a new application on the same project. The legal invalidity of the prior vote will not be treated as the equivalent of a disapproval of the application for an order of conditions. And he cites the so-called Mullen case. Because of the invalid vote and the error, a new hearing was required. That's the Mullen case. But this is the Jeffries case on a conservation commission. This decision is based on the fact that 4 of the voting members missed at least one of the substantive prior hearings and sessions on this application. The Mullen rule should not be carried to extremes. A municipal board must retain some reasonable degree of flexibility in carrying out its duties, especially when the same project or case involves hearings on multiple nights. He cites another case. The court does not suggest that a board or conservation commission member will automatically be disqualified from voting on a project if he or she has been late for a meeting or has missed the meeting when there has been some minor discussion about a project. There may also be some circumstances when a board will be justified in rehearing a session and treating a prior session as void if necessary to obtain a quorum of members who have attended every session, and if the public hearing rights of residents and interested parties are preserved. Because the vote of the conservation commission in this case was legally invalid, he then says he won't go on to consider whether the order of conditions was properly approved or not, because he said they didn't have the right to vote. But I point out to you that this is the judge, this is the case to rely on. It says you've got a choice. And with all due respect to the law department, it's an opinion. It's not the Supreme Court of Massachusetts. It's not the appellate court. Or it's not the judge in the Jeffries case. So this is the decision they're relying on. This decision says you have the right to make a choice. And I gave this poor analogy, and then I thought about it, which is if they stop the Red Sox game in the 3rd inning because it's raining, okay, and then the rain stops, then they resume the game. They don't say start over in the 1st inning. And even Jim acknowledged that a lot of work went into by prior members like Nelson Souza and others who are not here now, and we shouldn't lose the benefit of that. But it seems to me that you're asking us to make a decision, and I'm asking you to make a decision, and I think the decision you need to make is this. Are we required to start over, or as this judge says, you can take other action, including if there was some hearing and the members weren't there, disregard that hearing and do that one over, or do that meeting over. But it's not my opinion, and Jim's right. I don't represent the city of Lynn in this, but I will say that the opinion of the law department is the opinion of the law department. This is the judge's decision. He says, and I'll repeat it, that where there's no question of bad faith or suggestion of intentional disregard, without prejudice, he says, the order annulling the commission's decision is without prejudice on the commission rehearing the matter or taking such further action as it deems appropriate, either on Mr. Salamando's original application or on a new application on the same project. So that to me is the choice that not me or the law department is giving you. It's the case on which they base their opinion. It's the Jeffries case. I'd be glad to share it, leave it here. It's a Superior Court case out of Norfolk County. It's the only reported case in Massachusetts on a conservation commission confronting this issue.
Do you know if the refiling needs to go back in time to the original filing?
Well,
meaning my question.
Well, I know that. No, I don't know that. But
the reason I ask is, let me tell you where my head's at. What has gone on in the past 2 years I'm wondering if that's important. Is it relevant to the application?
I think it's an excellent question.
Or is what we received in the past month the total deal? It's been revised, it's been
Right.
revamped, it's been
Right.
stepped on, it's been eliminated, it's been engineered 6 weeks.
Hopefully it's been
Sunday.
improved, but
So, in my mind, and I'm not sure I'm right, the package we have is the package that's gonna be refiled.
to
We're
that,
gonna
I,
start with that.
yeah, I
So
think.
the refiling
Mr.
may be
Toomey
simple.
asked about this in a couple of earlier meetings, and I answered at one of the earlier meetings when he said, I think you guys need to refile because you, essentially, I'm not, Mike can speak for himself, but I think because you switched engineers or you gave us a different plan. But in any event, I then answered that by saying, if you looked at the submission of December the 17th by Federo Engineering, I think it said amended notice of intent, and then it went on and listed what was there. So in answer to, when Mike raised that, I said, well, we did that, I thought, in December. And so I'm with you that even though you may not have been a member in December, but we did have a filing, and then this board did request us to submit a summary, and we did. So I would hope that you're with me, and the game's going to resume in the fourth inning, and not necessarily back to inning number
Well,
one.
to say it in other words, if we only have to go back to December of 2021, I'm sure we can look at, if there's meetings and look at records, we'll be up to speed in a matter of no time with the
Well,
current.
I believe that we satisfied what Mike wanted and what I think what we filed in December was an amended order of conditions
That
with
might
the
be
new
the
engineer.
starting line, and therein lies the fact that the refiling might be simple.
My comment, if I remember, was that we could have required, because the plan was amended to a great extent, the entire drainage package was redesigned, we could have required the filing of an amended notice of intent. And if you file an amended notice of intent under the Wetlands Protection Act, you have to re-advertise, and you have to send out notifications, and the whole process begins. We didn't require that. Whether we were correct in that or not, I don't know, but we did not require it. What we have before us right now is a plan that's dated, revised March 8th, 2022, 7 days ago. That's what we have before us right now.
But we had filed December the 17th, and I got that.
Filed a plan, right, and the second thing, this dated March 8th, 2022, is the first plan since the original plan that has submitted a stormwater checklist, which is required, and which we discussed at the last meeting. Prior to that, we didn't even have a stormwater checklist. We now have a stormwater checklist, which is required under the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaws in order to address drainage. So we're basically a week, this plan that's before us, which I'm not gonna repeat the issues that I've raised and other members have raised, but my opinion is some of those haven't been addressed. But I'm not gonna go any further because Attorney Lamanna recommended that, and I certainly, I don't speak for anybody else on the board, I certainly am not gonna go against anything that the city law department advises a body of the city to do, so.
Well, if we could have
End
that
on it.
understanding that perhaps what we'll do is file, or that you accept as an amended notice of intent, what we now are at, where we're at, and begin there as opposed to beginning at square one, where we went through 2 and 3 engineers.
Well, was that
That's
filed with the
acceptable to the
DEP?
city.
Excuse me?
Was that filed with the DEP? Because we'll need to get a DEP number issued by the DEP before any order of conditions could be issued.
So
So,
you're saying we need a new DEP number?
well, do you have a DEP number?
No, well,
I think it's still pending.
okay, so we could ask them to give us a number, and
So
that's the number.
Well, I think that you'd need to amend your filing because they only have the original plan if you didn't file with them. So you would just
I'm
need-
sorry, I thought we had a DEP number,
Is there one?
38469.
Oh, okay, then. Okay, so then that will just carry over. I mean, we would have to provide them with the plan because it needs to match the order of conditions that's filed. So we would need to file an amended plan with them.
Well, I'm just going to say at the end, hopefully, that, as I said at the outset, we just want to bring this long process. Even the judge in this case talked about a protracted series of hearings. And I also think that you should be aware of this case because it's very laudable about people such as you, who he says are volunteers who spend nights and do whatever. I mean, so this judge had some understanding of what the dilemma was, and he was trying to find a way, but he said, this judge said, well, I'm bound by the Mullen Rule.
Thank you. What is the wish of the commission?
Make a motion that we follow the recommendations of the law department.
Which is, can you summarize that, Mike?
That's what I'm not 100% sure of, but I believe Attorney Lamanna is telling us that we need to have a refiling. To what extent that has to go, I would invite the proponents to speak to Mr. Lamanna and the law department.
Pursuant to the letter dated
Is that in a motion?
March 15th, 2022.
So it sounds like we should table this until a refiling?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs at this point about procedurally how to move forward. It's either, Attorney Vitale's recommendation, we would have to rehear and basically restart from December, or from the law department's standpoint, they would have to refile. I mean, refiling would cover everything. I don't think that we would really lose, you would lose any of your work that you've done so far. We would be getting the same package back.
No.
I think that procedurally that makes the most sense to me.
I'm not
sure what.
Jeremy, I'm not worried about any of that now, but having heard everyone speak, what I'd like to do is to stop discussion on this, put it to bed for a while until the refiling occurs. So
Right.
in my mind, a motion to table would be appropriate until the refiling. No?
I'm not sure.
I
if it's a
I
motion
think
to
we
table,
can vote to table what's before us, awaiting whatever filing is recommended by Attorney Lamanna and Attorney Vitale.
Okay, that way we can move the product forward.
We can move to the next agenda item and
Yep.
Okay.
and make progress here.
Okay.
So we have Mr. Toomey's motion on the table. We're looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Mr. Guthrow seconded it. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so the next agenda item is 50 to 52 Savoy Street, Savoy Street. Mr. Beal is here with his presentation. You can bring it forward up to this microphone. Is it hard for the members to see from there? Would you prefer that he came up here and I get out of the way?
What does he have to show us?
I don't know what's on his board there.
Well, we have individual packets for everybody of what we're going to talk about.
Okay, so feel free to pass them out.
And who are these lady and gentlemen again?
I know that that's Mr. Beal, but I don't know,
It's my fiance, Patricia Giorio. She's my right-hand man,
his
really.
partner. No, Giorio.
Okay, very good.
Just for the minutes, it's Patricia Giorio. O-R-I-O. Thank you.
So I'm James Beal. Proposing to possibly buy this lot of two houses and then tear them down and rebuild them. So I'm here in front of you because it's near Sluice Pond. So we gave you a packet, And just to familiarize with the project, if you look at the first page, it's a satellite.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Can I
Beal,
interrupt you
to
one
stop you
minute?
right there. Mr. Toomey asked me about this the other day, and I did not have an answer.
Yes.
But I did get an answer from the DEP this afternoon that says that a DEP number cannot be issued yet because the applicant owes an additional $250 for the two houses to be
That's-
split between the city and the state, $125 each. Go ahead. Sorry.
Secondly, have you completed a notice of intent application, either the the short version or the long?
Yes,
version?
through the DEP, the online.
We didn't get there's nothing in the package that I just bought.
Oh, not that one. I gave Jamie Cerulli a copy of that
Yep,
when I filed.
so what I provided to them was what you gave me.
Same packet that we have that has the transmittal fee and, yeah, the problem, Mr. Beal, is this is not a notice of intent form. And I don't know if we can take any, this is another legal, I don't know if we can take any action or even allow you to speak without having a notice of intent form and having the advertising.
I advertised it.
You did.
Yep, I advertised it, and the abutters were notified, which is why I believe that we have some neighbors, yes, here this evening. I can provide you with,
Wait a minute. I didn't get any of the rest of this. The only thing I got in my email was the transmittal.
oh, maybe it's stuck together. I'm sorry. Did
That's right.
anybody else get it?
Let me look.
what?
Let me look.
This submittal from Mr.
Did you get these copies of the pages? That's the rest of it. Thank you.
No,
Yeah,
no, I would have remembered this. Form 3, the notice of intent.
yeah. Okay, so I think we can definitely go ahead. But I think we need to have copies.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Oh, not a problem. I thought I did something wrong. This is new to me, this wetlands. No, I
No,
thought they would have them,
that's what
sorry.
I was looking for and hoping to find.
I would like to explain why the fee was incorrect. When I processed it online, it was not a choice of two single-family homes on one lot. It was just single-family homes, so I paid the fee accordingly there. And when I found out that it wouldn't issue none without the additional fee, I tried everything to pay them, but there's no way to actually physically pay them. You can't do it online once you pay once. You have to put it in the mail to a P.O. box, and that's how they get it. I tried everything to have the number for you this evening. I just couldn't do it. It was not possible.
Not easy dealing with the city.
I said, can I physically bring it to you? Like, no. I'm like, okay.
If I may say something,
Yes.
it's John, right? John Beal?
Jim.
Yeah. The documents that we did receive show the plot plan and your notes on the two houses being rebuilt, torn
Yes.
down and rebuilt on the existing foundations. And you described the damage to the retaining wall and how you want to repair it.
Yeah.
And I just read the package you submitted tonight, which I appreciate. But what I want to say is, and I'm new, I appreciate the floor plans and what have you, and the 3D views of the houses you plan to build.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking for as a conservation commissioner is, how are you gonna protect that pond when you repair that wall? How are you gonna protect that pond when you do the construction? You know, we need to see, and I don't know the details myself, else I'd tell you, but we need to see what you're gonna do to protect that pond when you repair the wall, and what you're gonna do to protect that pond when you demo the houses and rebuild them. It's as simple as that. So
Well,
I appreciate your package submitted tonight, but this package and the prior package does not address how you're gonna protect that pond.
I was gonna speak on that this evening because I have ideas how I think it should be done.
Okay.
But I would defer to you as the experts on this with telling me how you would want it done.
Well, if we could focus on that, I think that's where we need to focus.
Yep.
I don't have answers for you, because I don't know. Just to let you know, I'm thinking, do you have to drive steel piles and build a cofferdam on the pond and drain it before you do the work? I don't know what the answer is, so love to hear what you think.
Okay.
And maybe the veterans on the commission can give you some guidance.
Okay, yeah, we have two kind of individual things. Tearing down the houses, rebuilding the houses, then the wall, I think, is a completely separate item.
Okay.
So if we want to discuss on the wall, on the fourth page, I drew a hand-drawn what the wall would look like if you had a cross-section of it.
Yep.
The wall is basically in disrepair. It's just fallen down in those spots. The stones are still there. It's in about 3-4 inches of water, maybe, above the, as the drawing shows, above the concrete footing. So I was looking to find something that could be used as a mortar, but that was eco-friendly. And I found Master Seal 590, which is one more sheet down, that is an NCF, it's NSF 61 certified, which is safe to put in their drinking water. So I was thinking if I use that, it's a hydraulic cement, so it's not going to deteriorate in the water. It will not, when you put it in to use it, it will not flow away with the water because you make it into similar to a putty.
Yeah.
And it's designed for that. I was thinking also of putting, I don't know the exact term, the floating,
Boom.
yeah, the boom, exactly. A boom, just in case, because we would be standing in the water. Put a boom around the area we're working, but use this particular product that I know is not going to hurt the fish, not going to hurt the water, and won't float away because it's designed to be used in water. I'm trying to do it the least amount of anything in the water we can. That's what I was thinking doing with the wall. And then the houses, they have, we used to do in the olden days, a silt fence and hay bales. Now they have what they call swaddles, I'm sure you're probably familiar with them, which is all in one, and put that along, obviously the water, in a little way from the water. But I would think also possibly like an orange construction fence, so that if anything bounced somehow and went to the water, would not get in the water. But the plan would be, and that's what I have the big plan for, so the blue being the water.
Why don't you come forward so
Here, it would be
people in back
important
can
that
see.
you speak into this microphone, so you can.
So on the, I don't have my notes now, but on the first page, the second page has the plot plan.
Yep.
This is obviously a large version with only the important section.
Yeah.
The rest of the yards over here.
I'm with you.
So the plan would be to put, obviously, I'm thinking a construction fence along there, and then also the swaddles along the whole area. But my concern is when you're doing the actual deconstruction of the property. So the plan would be put the dumpsters right at the house, and the excavator to tear them down, which would have a thumb on the claw, so we just reach over, grab, pick up, spin, and drop it in the dumpster, so the debris never hits the ground. I mean, obviously, in reality, some will, because they'll fall off, but the majority of the debris would go from the house directly into the dumpster. We already talked to the dumpster company about changing them out every day. So every day, 2 dumpsters leave, 2 dumpsters come, and have someone on site with the excavator, any debris that happens to fall on that side, that they would immediately pick up and bring around and put in the dumpster. There's no oil in the house, just gas, water sewage, we always disconnected, had no electricity. But there's no oil tanks, no oil. We will have an asbestos company come in and do an abatement, even though, as far as you can tell, there's no asbestos in the house. But I would have that abated ahead of time to make sure, so we're not anything in the air we shouldn't be.
How do you plan, what fuel are you gonna use when you have the new houses built?
The gas.
Gas.
It'd be gas.
Stay gas.
Yeah, it'd be gas using central AC, central heat. And the plan is to build just a 2-story, 2-bedroom house. Finish the basement because it is a walkout to the lake, which would be beautiful. And you've seen the condition of the house, the kitchen is pretty bad. And
I have been a resident in Lynn 30+ years now, and I've seen more than one retaining wall either repaired or built on Sluice Pond. So we must have experience with what's required. So, and I look at the veteran commission members, We must know exactly what you need to do.
It looks like a brand new one across the water,
There is.
tall, yeah, huge concrete wall.
And I'm not sure about the feasibility, you certainly would know more, but the reuse of the stones that are there, across the wall there, they brought in all new stones, and trying to remember the name, but it's not coming to me, but anyhow, that type of wall is really good. The vertical walls are tough on a pond because they take so much abuse, but I really like to see that area done before it does collapse, because that you can see it's being undermined a little now by the collapse of the soil.
Exactly, especially on the
I was out
western
there the
side.
other day, and
And that's why I figured that you repair the wall, the stones just fell in the lake, and they're just natural stones, so you could reuse them. And that way, not bringing anything different. Use the particular product and hoping that would be fine with the commission. I really did some research on that, trying to find something that's safe for the water. And then just rebuild it the way it is, and that way, like I said, it'll stop the erosion.
so your plan is not to deconstruct the wall, it's to,
There's two
somehow I had the
sections.
idea of,
Yeah, there's a section about 5 feet, maybe in the middle, that's gone. The top is still there, but the rest of the wall
Right.
fell in. And then, as you saw, the far end, the rest of the wall looks pretty good from what you can see from looking over without going in the water and walking around. So the idea would be repair what's bad, and obviously look at the rest of the wall and see if there's anything additional that's loose that could be patched up.
so you think, because as I remember, I read something about the concrete base, and I thought you were going to take everything down to the concrete base. That's not the intent.
No, the intent
is to repair.
What is bad? Yeah, you can see the concrete footing from looking over. They have a nice concrete footing, and the wall's built on top of that.
Right.
So that, we know obviously the concrete footing's good, so it's just a matter of building up with them. So the parts we know are bad will be repaired,
And how would that be accomplished? That would be how would the repair be done?
well, we'd put the boom, and then we'd use a particular product, the Thoroseal, that is safe for water, and just rebuild it like you're using that as mortar, even though it's hydraulic cement.
So so you're talking the boom, but how are you going to access down there with the stone? You're going to have to bring in some stone to repair.
No, the stones literally fell into the lake. You can see them, they're right there. They're only in a couple inches of water.
That I didn't see. The water was a lot higher than that when I was there.
But when we were there, well, a lot changed with the rain.
I saw the stone.
Did you? Yeah. I'm not arguing that that's not there. I'm just.
Well, the first time I looked at the house, it was snow. I never got down to the water. I never saw the wall. I went back a second time, like, oh no, that's not good. So the idea would be to try to use the stones, and obviously if there were some missing, we could get it from just natural stones.
Right.
And repair with Thoroseal, which is safe for the water, hydraulic cement, so it will never be a problem. I talked to the manufacturers that you can use it for that application, even though it's not what they designed it for, it's fine for the application.
I guess I'm kind of not making it. How are you going to get whatever stones you're going to, when you take them out of the water?
Yeah.
What's going to be involved in repairing the wall as far as accessing it? Are you going to use a heavy piece of equipment? Are you going to stand on a boat or a dock?
Oh,
Are you
no.
going to?
There's literally a few inches I would stay in the water, and
That's
waders, of course. because-
So you're going to do it by hand, standing in the
Pick
water?
'em up, put 'em- yeah, they're small, the
That's-
stones aren't that big, they're easily lifted, and do it by hand. And do it like we're building, building it back up.
That's a plus. I was concerned
Yeah, I
about
don't
what
know, no
equipment, if
machines.
anything.
No.
You do, while I'm thinking of this, you do have to do one thing, and that is you have to file a written request with us for a waiver of the 25-foot no-disturb zone. I didn't see any vegetation there,
Yeah.
so it's not, I don't believe it's a bordering vegetated wetland.
Yeah.
But in any case, we have a 25-foot no-disturb zone around any wetland and a 30-foot no-disturb zone around bordering vegetated wetlands. And in this case, we have, as Paul said, we have granted waivers to repair the wall in particular, because the consequence, if you don't get the wall repaired, is a lot worse than getting it repaired. So that's the first thing, and that would have to be in writing, to basically just to request a waiver of the 25-foot no-disturb zone. And I would indicate in that, and that would be a requirement, that it would only be for the construction of the wall. And I don't know how, I think that houses, at least one of them comes, comes within the 25 foot. So whatever work you are intending to do that falls within 25 feet from the pond would have to be described in the request for a waiver.
I would guesstimate that both houses, not entirely, but both houses have sections 25 feet to that pond.
I think you're probably right.
So,
9 foot 8 there and 10 3 there.
yeah, so even though you're demoing them and rebuilding them on the same footing, you got that activity going on. So everything's in play.
The original plan was to rebuild them as they were, try to cut them down and start again without tearing them down. But once I got inside the house, I realized that was impossible. The last thing I wanted to do was get into tearing them completely down, but it's not possible to rebuild these and make them a usable house.
We've had that before on the pond as well. And many of those houses were designed as camps.
I have a question. Where are you planning on storing the materials for the new house?
Materials as in like lumber materials? Yeah, we put them close to the house on this side. There'd be nothing, we would try to stay away from the pond side for any reason. Everything will be done from this side. There's a road here, driveway here, the driveway up here also. So nothing will be done on the pond side. Everything will be done. And we're going to do vinyl siding, so there won't be any paint involved on the outside. Completely maintenance area. So there'll be nothing outside that gets to the pond ever. So we're hoping to make it as easy as possible. But I'm deferring to all of you because I've never done anything this close to wetlands. I did it all in my own yard, but it was really nothing. And I have ideas of what I should do, but you will know better than I on what I should do.
That certainly is one of the points, that all of the work would have to be done from the landward side.
Yeah, there'd be no reason.
No equipment at all and no storage or anything else on, behind the houses or within 25 feet of the pond.
No, there'd be nothing. Even when we worked on that side, doing siding, anything that we used that day would be moved out front afterwards. And that would be the only thing like on that side would be when we do siding. When windows in, put siding on, that's about it.
I think we touched upon moments ago rebuilding that wall first before demoing the houses.
That's fine.
We kind of touched upon that. I just want to talk about that because I think it's a great idea to do that, or to plan to do that, is to repair those walls, fill in the divots that have sunk so that you have firm earth there. In case anything does fall, you can just clean it right up and get that wall squared away first. Secondly, that where that 1.9 feet is, that little street,
Yeah.
if you do the protective hay bales or swaddles or whatever you do use that is acceptable, I would extend it across that street,
Yes.
if you will. Yes,
Yeah, okay,
yes.
absolutely.
From that point to the far point, because that street seems to be a drain of sorts. There's actually a catch basin drain pipe going down that street so that into the pond, which I didn't like.
David informed me of that earlier.
But if you're gonna protect the property, swing it up to that far corner and protect that.
Yeah, this is grass the rest of the way, so you need to tell the streets there. So yeah, I would go right as far as I can.
That's really all I got. I don't know the process, Mike and Jeremy, the next steps for him to get.
So this is a public hearing, so if the members are finished, we would take comments from the neighbors who are here, and we would just ask that you line up, state your name and address, and then you can ask your question or state whatever you like.
Before we do that, Jamie, I'd just like to add,
Sure.
along with what Paul said, along with the request for the waiver of the 25-foot no disturb zone, I think we'd like to see an order of the work progression. And as Paul indicated, we'd like to see the work on the wall completed first, and which house you're gonna take down and a work detail basically, just so that we know exactly what's going on and what we can expect.
Yeah, and maybe showing where the throttles or the hay bales are gonna be.
Yeah,
you
the
know,
ero-
Yeah, whatever they're called,
Good
whatever they're
point.
called,
Someone
yeah.
told me about the
Whatever
other
you
day.
choose to use.
Just show it on a plan, so we have something to reference.
I can send it all in, absolutely.
Great.
Okay, sir, you can step forward, and you can stay there if you want, if he has questions for you to answer, but please just speak into the microphone. I don't know if he has something for you to answer, but go ahead.
My name is Paul Stonkus. I live at 39 Savory, which is across that little street from the house. It's not a street. From the corner of the house down to the water, it is a public right-of-way owned by the city of Lynn. Okay, it is not paved. It is dirt, grass, shrubbery. There is indeed a stormwater drain there. The property is on a hill, so all the water from that street, from Pendexter, flows down into that drain and goes directly into the pond, okay, which includes oil, gas, salt, sand in the winter. If you look at that street right now, it is covered with salt. And it all goes into the pond. Standard reply when people ask if you can swim in the pond is, you certainly don't swim in the pond within 48 hours of a strong rainstorm. Because everything on the streets is in the pond. There are at least a dozen storm drains just like that around the pond. For over 30 years, we've been trying the Sluice Pond Association, which I was president of for a very long time, has talked about getting those storm drains replaced with catch basins. We did look at that over 30 years ago. At that point, the estimated cost was $25,000 to $30,000 per drain to put a storm basin in, so that the storm water did not go into the pond. Okay? So that's the first thing there. It's a public right-of-way. There are at least a dozen public rights-of-way on the pond for people to access the pond for fishing, swimming, whatever. It narrows from my house down to the water, and it is barely one car width wide when it turns into grass. So another problem that we continually have there is parking. Visitors to those houses, people who live in the houses, people that want to go fishing, park in that small area, and we are unable to get out of our driveways or pull into our driveways. So right now you've got two small one-bedroom houses there with, I think, 3 people in the 2 houses. If you're going to add 2 two-bedroom houses, I would expect there are going to be more people there, more visitors, more parking. That is going to make it worse. And am I able to come back if I think of something else, or is this my one shot?
Come back later today, or
Yeah.
you mean another time?
No.
I
think
guess
we
you
can
could come
continue-
back.
We can continue the public hearing
Okay.
to the next meeting, which we're not gonna take a vote tonight because we're awaiting the submission of documents and the correction of the fee. We can't do anything until the fee issue gets corrected at Mass DEP and they issue a file number. So the answer, Mr. Stonkus, is that we will allow a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Toomey.
He just raised another issue that we usually address right at the beginning of any presentation, and I didn't think of it, but just did now, and that is that, have you received any indication from inspectional services or any of the City of Lynn departments about whether the proposal requires a variance of the zoning?
I think I presented to Jamie, I'm not sure. The zoning board, I asked them, and I got a letter from them saying that,
That's a zoning determination letter that you have.
Yeah.
Yep, not the zoning board.
a zoning termination letter, said that there are 2 conforming lots, 2 conforming single-family homes on a conforming lot, and we can tear them down and rebuild them, assuming we do them within the confines of the rules of Lynn, which is 35 feet tall, et cetera.
Basically, does it say you do not need a zoning variance?
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself.
I read the letter. I don't recall exactly what it said, but
Okay, if you could
I would have
send us-
given him an application for the ZBA if he needed one.
If you could send us a copy,
I do.
that would also be appreciated.
I'm Patrick Yo. I'm at 36 Avery Street, the same side abutting property. So just out of the purview of that, of the property that Mr. Beal is trying to develop. The letter that I received did not have any indication of how to see or review the notice of intent, which it should. The letter in front of me just says that I brought that was provided not by certified mail, and I came back from vacation and saw this in my mailbox Sunday. It does not. It just says that that this is going to be held today, and that there would be a repair of the existing retaining wall and existing two structures of the property in the existing footprint. But I didn't have the opportunity or the guidance on how to review the notice of intent, which I would have appreciated before being in the butter. So I would appreciate knowing how to find that, where to find it, and the time to review it as the direct abutter before the next meeting, which I assume will be when they will be back to talk more about what's going on here.
I can email it to you. If you send me an email,
Thank you.
I can email it to you.
I'll give that to you afterwards.
Okay.
The next thing I wanted to bring up was the structural integrity of that wall. If there was an undermining, I would be worried about the wall already starting to sag, and just by placing rocks under it, I don't feel that the structural integrity would be there. You'd just be putting something in that's already sagging and having deterioration possibly from behind the wall. And undermining is, the dirt coming from underneath on the other side. So just by placing rocks back in and mortaring it without deconstructing to reconstruct, I would think if he's going to plan on selling it, would be a very big concern for the new homeowners that would be moving in. So that's one thing I would want you to consider fully. And being in a butter, I wouldn't want to see a house possibly fall in and cave in because of a failing structure. That would be a retaining wall to hold the earth there. The next thing I was thinking of was, has there been an analysis, and I don't know yet because he does not own the property yet, of the foundations? They are old. There is some block foundation there. Is that acceptable for building a two-story house on what is currently a one-story foundation, or one-story building on top of that foundation? These houses were constructed in the early 1900s. So would he have to remove the current foundation and reconstruct it to provide the sufficient integrity underneath that new structure, which is going to be much larger and much heavier, which also would put more strain on the abutting soil going to that retaining wall, which furthermore would prove my point to be a deconstruction for reconstruction of that retaining wall. Yes. Yep.
I don't get it
Sure.
right out, I'm liable to lose it. The issue that you're talking about, I think, is not one that we would address. It would be the building department, and, the issues about the safety of the foundation, and that certainly addressable by the building department. And Mr. Stonker's issue of the issue of parking is also, that would be an issue for the parking commission and possibly the building department as well, because they have requirements about off-street parking. But that's not something we can rule on.
Yeah, I agreed. And I think just as it relates to the wall and how that you want to see it constructed the right way, the pressures that would be put on that wall additionally from another larger, very adjacent building may be problematic. One other thing I thought of was that there are trees overhanging the property that is to the right, or the smaller of the two properties. I'd be curious to know how that would be addressed, if those need to go through any. I don't know the conservation rules of cutting trees down just to do so, and I want you to be knowledgeable of that. I think that's all I have.
I'm not sure of the trees you're talking about. Where
If you look at the satellite view, it does show trees overhanging the smaller house. I believe it's 52. is 52.
And is there any plan to remove the trees or?
No, if, maybe trim them back if necessary, if they're gonna hit the house, but I didn't think, when I was there, I didn't notice the trees were that close to that, not close, over the house, but not close in height. I didn't think it was gonna be an issue, but we would not never remove trees. If anything, just trim back the branches touching the house.
If you were gonna remove trees within the 100-foot buffer zone, we have a tree plan that you'd have to replace whatever trees were taken out.
Well, if I'm correct, those trees aren't even on their property, so I couldn't remove them. I believe they're on the property next door. So I couldn't remove the trees if I wanted to.
Those are the trees you were concerned about? Yeah. And what was your concern about the trees?
There is a conservation type
Regulation? Yeah.
How high is the retaining wall?
About 5 feet, I'm guessing. I haven't gone in into, obviously with the water. So in one section of retaining wall, yeah, the land has sloped down with it.
Yep.
Obviously, we'd have to dig and throw the dirt back up, right, to get to the footing.
Yep.
The other small section is not that bad. It still has the top on it, actually. They did the top of the mortar, so it would just be a matter of getting in there and replacing that. So it's not so much that the land on one end, yes, is moving because of walls, but the other really isn't yet. That is the issue. I want to get to it before it does.
To Jeremy's point, the cross-section of the stone retaining wall that you submitted here, I'd like to see some dimensions. The height, for one, from the footing, and then the size of the footing.
That's approximate, because obviously I haven't measured it yet, but I
Yeah.
can. If you want me to go in the water and actually measure that, I will absolutely do that, and I'll have that submitted.
I think we'd like to see that, because it's so, integral to the safety of the wall and the wall doing what it should do over the years. Not falling into the pond.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, just so you know, the water level there is changeable. What is there for water now is not necessarily what's going to be there 3 months from now. It could be dry sand there. It could be 4 more feet of water. Okay, the water level in the pond is controlled by the sluice gate down at Linfield Street and is under the control of Lynn Water and Sewer. Okay, but in heavy rains, I have had the water in that pond 10 feet up in my yard. So it depends upon weather conditions, seasonal, everything else. That's not why you came back. My understanding, I'm also a realtor, is that that property was 2 lots. They were combined, and my understanding is in the city of Lynn that when 2 lots are combined under one name, it becomes 1 lot. Okay? I was told that it was going to be 2 condos. So when I start hearing 2 single families, it's a red flag to me.
And Mr. Sankey, just so you know, that is an issue for the building department as well. If we receive word from documentation that they have approved the construction, then our concern is naturally trying to protect the pond, as you have done for many years.
Okay. You said zoning board of appeals. That might be something that would be necessary to change this into 2 lots.
I think he has a decision that says that it's not necessary, but again,
So is
I'd
there
like
a
to.
meeting for that?
I'd like to read it again. Not for a zoning determination that he has. He has a letter that, but again, I read it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
I can shed some light on that, Jamie, if you'd like.
Okay,
So the zoning determination was that it's a conforming lot with conforming structures, and that according to the zoning board, there's no zoning issues with putting 2 new houses on there, 2 stories high. The second question I asked was, can I then sell them as condominiums? And their answer to that was, I have to seek counsel for that and figure that out on my own. And I've already talked to an attorney about this, and they're working on that aspect of it. So building the houses, which I know is your concern, is the wetlands and the pond, and the ability to build the houses, yes, I can do that. Selling them as individual condominiums, that's a separate legal issue.
Beyond the condominium issue, okay, there are other properties in the city of Lynn that are two single families on one lot. They require ownership by one person. So it's not a legal two-family, it is two legal single families on one lot. It's a very strange thing. But they are not two single families that can be sold as two single families.
That's an issue for the building department, and mainly, we would have no opinion. You spend a lot of time in real estate, so I'm pretty sure what you're saying is correct, but.
So my question is, where does all that come under discussion?
Well, we'll be providing the commission with a copy of the zoning determination letter. I believe that if he should be approved by conservation and he moves forward for a building permit, that's when that issue can be discussed
That would be with ISD or the building department?
with the building department.
So there would be a meeting with the building department for this?
If he doesn't need the zoning board of appeals, then there will not.
Okay. My concern is this meeting tonight happened, as my neighbor said, with 3 or 4 days' notice and no information.
There'll be no vote tonight, as
I understand.
Sumi said, so we'll be continued until April.
But we did not have the opportunity to look at anything.
So if you send me an email, I'll provide you everything we have. You can do a records request, you can get that zoning determination, you can get the property jacket, which would include everything.
And as far as some of the issues, you can communicate with the building department. I don't think they have formal meetings, is that correct, Jamie? But you can send communications and expect a response from them of what your concerns are.
Mhm.
So my major concern for this commission then is changing that drainage into the pond.
I reside at 35 Savory Street, and my name is Timothy Merrick. And I applaud you. The property does need some upkeep. However, I have some concerns. First of all, I went through the whole process, and it's time-consuming. I find it hard to believe we're at this stage, and he hasn't even owned the property yet, but he already has a DEP number. Okay.
No, he doesn't have a DEP number.
He doesn't?
No.
Okay. So how can you proceed with the process when he's not even owns the property?
He couldn't be approved tonight. There couldn't
Okay.
be a vote tonight.
So, that being said, I received this addressed as a resident,
The abutters
not
list
as
doesn't-
Mr. and Mrs. Nerick.
The abutters list doesn't provide your address.
They don't? Okay.
No.
So, when I did it, I had to go through certified mail. And my complaint is I never saw what his plans are. And that's my concern. I didn't know he wanted to put a 2-story structure there. What's 2 stories bring you with a basement, finished basement? Now you have 3 floors of living space. How many, is it a 2-bedroom that we know of? Go over to plenty 2 bedrooms, and these places are 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, which adds to parking conditions and concerns like that. It's a nice, quiet, tranquil area. It's a dead end. My concern is about quality of life, and if this will impact my quality of life, along with my neighbors. That's it. I had to send out paperwork through certified mail to receive signatures. Inside that packet of certified mail was basically from the nuts and bolts of what we're planning on doing with all the paperwork that's required of me that I had to submit to conservation before I could send it out via certified mail. I had to do my wall over, and I had to have the engineer come out and do that. So, I mean, that's like, you just putting rocks back up and putting with this mortar that's safe to the environment, that's good, but structurally, is that sound? Is it safe? You know, that's a concern. I'm not here to bash you, but I have concerns. I mean, and that's my biggest, that's one of my concerns. Also, that right-of-way is also a big spot there too. We have the fisheries that come down there, and that's where they stock the pond every year. You know, so that's another concern I have. And other than that, I was blown away. I got this in the mail on the 9th to repair hair for this, without any paperwork to kind of review. And that's why I'm kind of limited on what I can say. I understand a lot of the stuff comes through the building department. Like Mr. Stonkus has asked, like, is there an opportunity that we can go and speak to them? I don't believe there is. I think it's you handle the wetland issues, and it goes to the building department, and basically they rubber stamp it without any, without coming to us and taking into our considerations. I've been a long time resident of Lynn, and you know, I've worked hard. Our neighbors have worked hard. We have a nice neighborhood, and I want to know what's going on, and I want to know what to expect at this residence. Now, the two structures with unknown, you know, with regards to purchase by a family of 3, 4, I don't know. It's a quiet neighborhood.
You definitely raised 2 points that we should be addressing. And Jeremy's going to speak on the one, but the one I'm going to say is you're absolutely right. The abutter notification should have been done 14 days before, I believe.
Yeah, the instructions are with the notice of intent.
Yeah, and it requires notification to all the people within 100 feet and the information about where they can access the plans, either directly to you or down here at City Hall, I believe is the requirement. But before the next meeting, I would say that has to be done as well. That's another point. And Jeremy had a...
Yeah, so I believe that retaining walls, when you're building a retaining wall, anything over 4 feet needs to have a engineer design it and stamp it. I'm not sure where this is rebuilding a retaining wall, whether that's warranted or not. However, where it is holding back so much earth, you know, I feel like putting the hydraulic cement in. I know it's not hydraulic cement, but I'm going to call it that.
No, it is actually. It's hydraulic.
Yeah, I mean it.
It is hydraulic.
Or it's just a different product from your standard. But anyway, I would feel more comfortable if an engineer reviewed just the integrity of the wall. It just seems like there may be more repairs necessary just to make sure that it's stable. And that's just my feeling on it. I don't know how other board members feel, but yeah.
Because the reason being is, and I'll point out the obvious for some, the wall deteriorating in the middle and the end, which requires repair.
Yes.
The rest of the wall is probably going to require the same repair soon enough. So I think that's the elephant in the room, is repairing what's fell apart only really doesn't address the integrity of that wall. So, I agree.
Yeah, we just want to make sure it's done the right way and, structurally stable.
Yeah, make sure, yeah, I see what you're saying, make sure what needs to be repaired gets repaired.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm not sure what the best path forward for you is to make that happen, but I think maybe having an engineer look at it.
I think that'd be the only way, yeah.
Good idea.
That would satisfy everyone if I have an engineer look at it and say it's all good. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, and just come up with kind of if he could, maybe come up with kind of a plan as to how it should be repaired and kind of the extent of it,
A motion to table?
Just, I'll make a motion to table further discussion unless there's anybody else, anything else? I think we all are.
It will be the third Tuesday in April, here at 6:30.
And is that sufficient time to,
Oh, I think it should be, yes.
That'll be April 19th.
It should, but no. Oh, we can probably move it. Yeah. Well, you have I have your email address, so I'll be able to send the meeting notice to everybody that I have their emails.
Is there a way we can do like a hybrid meeting so folks can join via Zoom?
So we can't have a hybrid meeting because these folks here don't have computers, so they can't interact with whoever's on the screen. We did it before, but it's not successful because the people at home can't see the applicant and the computers. There's only a computer here. If we turn on a computer over there, it makes that noise from being too close together. So, I'm sorry? Yeah, we try, so that would mean that everybody here has to bring their own computers and not everybody has their own computers to bring in, and it just, we're the only commission that wasn't back in person. So it's good to be back in person.
So a motion to table the discussion on this property, or this plan, has been made.
Oh, and seconded?
Not yet.
Second.
Okay, second, Jocelyn. All in favor?
Aye.
aye?
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
do I have the list?
Yeah, right here.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
I didn't know what it was, yeah.
Yeah, can we possibly do a different day?
Yeah, we can do a different day. I have to coordinate with when the city council meets, if they
Okay.
want to be in here, but we could go in a different room. We won't be able to be on
Would we
TV.
push it up or back?
Wouldn't you say back because of the other,
Back, probably. Oh,
because of the Federa work that he's
do you
gonna
think
do?
that they want, do you think they want to go sooner?
I think they want
Do
to
you
win.
think that they want to go sooner?
I don't know, but if they are going to have to refile, we still haven't really determined exactly what Attorney Lamata and Attorney Vitale are going to determine if they have to file with DEP and,
Right.
you could, we could get tentative date or
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from my girlfriend. She's having surgery in April, so it's on a Tuesday. I'm just not sure if it's the 19th or the 26th, because I know there was something with them postponing it. So
So,
I wouldn't want to miss.
do we have emails for everyone to notify them?
I have emails for everyone, so I'll let everybody
Yeah.
know.
And
what's
Okay.
decided.
It's on the 26th.
Thank
kind of.
you.
Oh, so the
They post-
19th, looks like the 19th.
Yeah, the
is good.
19th works.
Okay,
Yep.
so it will be the 19th.
That's the
That's
original.
the original. If we do it here, we're on TV and we're on Facebook, Live now. I don't know if we will be then.
I can be the one of, like, if we do, Facebook, I can monitor the chat, like, if you have questions. Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you could email us through Jamie, and we could attempt to
Mm-hmm.
address any comments or issues.
No, I don't, so.
Yeah, Lynn Community Television usually publishes it live. Oh, yeah. Yep,
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
thank you.
I think we have one item
We do.
under general business.
I don't know, maybe, yeah.
Oh, we have your letter.
Yeah.
But I don't have it drafted yet. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I'll draft it and send it around tomorrow.
To the commission members, are there any comments on my finding at St. Joseph Cemetery?
No, have we sent a letter?
No, I was
No.
gonna draft it
Okay.
and bring it tonight, but I totally forgot.
No, I mean, I agree 100%, we should inform them, and then maybe before the next meeting,
So I'll draft
Well,
it tomorrow,
inspect-
send it around, and if everybody's
go out
in
and
agreement,
inspect it, but send them the letter
we'll
as
mail it
soon as
out.
we can.
Or I'll mail it out.
Do you want to see it?
I'll definitely go by and take a look.
Yeah.
When you go in St. Joe's, it's gotta be near the back on the right-hand
It's
side,
behind those properties on Jenna Street.
right directly behind it.
You'll see, you'll find
Exactly
it.
where you.
You'll find it. What was I gonna say?
I have a question.
Oh,
Go
that
ahead.
thought just came, so I don't lose it.
Too scary.
Is there a regulation that places should not plow snow into the wetlands? There's gotta be.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's gotta be.
Oh, there
But I
is,
couldn't find anything.
yeah.
I searched on the web for it, but we should tell them, hey, those guys that are plowing the cemetery need to plow it away from the wetlands, right?
Who takes
Yeah.
care of that cemetery? DPW or is
At the Archdiocese
The
of
Archdiocese
Boston.
of Boston.
Archdiocese? Oh, boy.
Okay, so if you could kind of add that somehow to the letter? Not only repair the basin, but also cease what appears to be, and I don't have proof, but I think that front loader just plowed the top off.
Probably, and we do have, as a matter of fact, that's one of the things on Lansdale Lane that I didn't want to bring up, but they haven't put any snow disposal area on the plans for that long access road, and there's gonna have to be something.
Where is this?
This is Lansdale Lane. You know, I'm not really comfortable discussing a whole lot, but the detention pond that they're putting in there is right at the end of the road, and you can't have the snow being pushed right into that. And that is a problem. But it's not anything that's a big deal. They are gonna have to address it. But it goes along with what we're saying.
That was on your list of things to discuss?
Yes.
I have quite a list myself. So
I
we're
mean, the
waiting.
biggest thing about this, and Sam goes on, and Sam does a good job representing his client. and-
Sure.
And that's his job. But what we have before us is a plan that's dated, originally December 17th, and then amended on March 8th. And so I don't feel any need that we have to rush. You know, it's too bad they got set back, but that's part of the way things are going.
Bad luck. That's what I was thinking. They just had a lot of bad luck.
Did you have a question while I was trying to remember mine?
Yeah, so, in regards to the concern for the 50 to 52 Savory Street project that some of the butters brought up, do we have a responsibility to inform the city? No?
Well, that's the, that's the job of the proponent.
So he has a letter, I don't remember exactly what it said, because I read it 2 weeks ago, but I think that if it said that he well, I know if it said he had to go to the ZBA, I would have given him an application, but I'd be more comfortable if we had it in front of
Right,
us
that's-
so that I
that's
could
what
see exactly what it said.
Right. But we don't put ourselves, in between the proponent and the neighbors. It's up to the
Oh, no,
proponent
no. I
to
mean,
work
like,
out the,
in regards to their concern about, like, the water runoff, with the sewage system being, like, not
oh, you
adequate
mean,
for the city, which technically does not fall under the
yeah,
contract.
Mr. Stonkus, who was here, has been on the Sluice Pond Associates for many, many years, and they have attempted, but I don't know how much, you're talking 12 drains feeding into the pond. The overall cost of that would probably be astronomical. And then if the water's not going into the pond, where is it gonna go? Are they gonna create detention ponds someplace to hold that volume of water? And like a lot of it is coming off of Linfield Street, which is a state highway, so not only would the Lynn Water and Sewer possibly be involved, but the state possibly involved. The city they are doing Linfield Street, and they did come before us, and they made a couple of changes about diverting runoff from the pond, right near where Michael Satterwhite is now. Used to be Hayward's, right around there. They did definitely make some improvements. They're cutting down on some of the paved areas there and creating like little park areas and that. So it should be a plus. But you're right. I mean, I wish we could tell them, you can't put that water in there. But I don't think we have that.
Jamie, do you know how we can get an antenna badge to use the Johnson Street parking lot?
You can't because the spaces are all assigned.
Really?
They're not open. There's actually no spaces available. So,
Really?
yeah.
I had to park past the Armory.
I made 3 trips around,
Yeah.
and I got lucky. Somebody pulled out right in front of City Hall.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
Some employees have to go to the Andrew Street lot.
Where is Andrew Street?
Oh.
Right. Can we, and how do they not pay over there? Isn't that a pay parking lot?
Yes. You could park in there.
And
I believe.
After hours, yes.
Yes.
During hours, yeah.
So we can, I can email you the instructions.
We could also
to
carpool.
use Andrew Street
Yes.
and
I
not
don't think-
pay?
I don't think there would be a problem with that.
Because I feel that we're volunteering our time here.
So
We should get a
probably
parking
adjourn the
space
meeting
close.
now so that, we should adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So if we step away from the microphone. And is this any?
Want you to know, I chose this seat because I was being watched over by Virginia Barton. Great lady. Thank you.
Yes, that'll work. It was very nice to meet you all finally.
Nice to meet you.
That's one of the reasons I opted for, I pushed for an in-person meeting.
I like these in-person meetings better.
A lot better.
It's so much easier to understand everything and understand what people are saying.
get a sense of, you know, the material. That's what, I know the young people here can go on the computer and that, but I can't focus like on details. I have to have the whole plan in front of me and write.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, well,
What is your, at the, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. Yep, at the museum.
I'll make a motion that we do approve